Today's video is a very exciting video to make because we are building a workstation computer for video editing and gaming. I really love building computers, but with brand new parts I only do it like every 6 or 7 years because it's just really expensive to do. The total cost of this build is around €4,000. It uses high-end but still consumer parts. This build is made possible by my lovely Patreon supporters and my long-term sponsor PCBWay. This video is sponsored by my long-term sponsor PCBWay. If you want your circuit board design realized and printed, you should check out PCBWay. Starting prices as low as $5 for a 1 or 2 layer design. Check the top banner for the current promotions. Place your order now, links in the description. All the parts that you see here are bought by me and nothing is sponsored by any of the companies. Hi, my name is Victor Bart and welcome to Retro Machines. My current system is a 10-year-old Xeon, an i5 2690 V2, 10 cores, 3 GHz, 3.6 turbo. It's a great CPU, but it is a DDR3 platform. I have 64 GB of memory and SATA SSDs. So I was thinking I can use that system for like 2 or 3 years more and just swap the video card, or just build a new system and have DDR5, M.2 SSDs and all the modern standards. The CPU that I chose for this build is this AMD Ryzen 9. It's the 7950X. It's not the X3D. You can look a lot online about the X3D versus the X, but basically for Premiere and video editing, the X is really a good CPU, and the X3D has more cache, but only on 8 of the cores, and then you need extra software in Windows for the management of it, and games run only on 8 cores with the extra cache and they turn stuff off. And I was just thinking, I just want to have a 16 core, just go for the 7950X. I don't need the X3D. I can always upgrade to newer CPUs in like 2 years and see what they then offer, but for now this CPU is what I want. And I gonna pair it with this very nice memory set. It's a 96 GB of memory from Corsair Vengeance DDR5 on 5600 MHz, and this kit is on the list of the motherboard that is tested. And I wanted to have a lot of memory, more than 64, and a lot of motherboards have problems with 128 and 4 sticks. So I was thinking, let's go for 2 sticks, 96 GB of memory, and call it a day. The storage I chose are 2 Western Digital Black 850Xs. They have really good reviews, 4 TB each, so a lot of local storage. One will be for Windows and games, and the other one will be for video editing. The power supply is a 1000 watt Corsair unit, an H8000i. This is an ATX 3.0 power supply with all the modern connectors, and all the cables can be removed. It's completely overkill, but I love it. For the cooling I went for Noctuas in the color brown and sand color. And I really love that color scheme because it's so weird in computers that it makes it cool. And with the case that I have, this will be a perfect match. So 4 12 cm fans for in the case, and the system will be cooled by this massive air cooler, the Noctua NH-D15S. No water cooling. I think air cooling is more than enough and really reliable. For the motherboard I chose an Asus ProArt. It's the ProArt X670E Creator Wi-Fi, and this is for me the ultimate motherboard. For the video card I chose this Asus ProArt GeForce RTX 480, and I use Adobe Premiere for video editing, and Nvidia is just the best compatible solution for it with the highest performance. So that's why I went for Nvidia and not for AMD, and I use Nvidia since 2007 and I had good experience with it. Only this card is €1,469. That is a lot of money for a video card. I will probably get comments about why I shouldn't go for this card and why Nvidia is expensive and blah 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 blah. And to be honest, I work a lot of hours on the truck. I make some money there, and with my videos I make some money, and why not spending it on something that I really enjoy, use every day, and have good performance in games and just enjoy it and have something with modern technology. And the last card that I bought was in 2012 or something, or 2013, from Nvidia, brand new. After that I used a lot of used video cards, so I saved a lot of money there. And now I just buy something new. And yes, every part in the computer industry nowadays is just crazy expensive. When I saw this Fractal Design Nord case online, I really wanted to have it, because this is just nuts walnut wood. It's real wood, varnished, it looks amazing, really good styling, and you can remove the front panel. And on the rear of the front panel we have a dust filter. And there are two 14 centimeter Fractal Design fans installed, but I'm gonna replace it with the Noctua ones. And we have a tempered glass side panel. And has a power supply shroud installed, room for a normally sized motherboard. You can do some water cooling options, but I don't care about water cooling. Also the top is a mesh panel with some leather accents here to remove it. And you have also this case with a mesh side panel instead of the glass, but I think the glass is nicer. And you can install some fans in the top if you want. We have a brass power button and USBs. And also for the power supply you have a dust filter if you want to use that. You can install here more fans, and also here fans if you want to. If you still use SATA SSDs, you can install them here. And you can install two hard drives in the bottom, but then your power supply can't be too long. But I don't gonna use any spinning drives or SATA SSDs in this system. And the rear of the motherboard tray is made for cable management with some hooks and rubber grommets and velcro, so I can really do a good cable management job with this case. This motherboard comes with this very nice Wi-Fi antenna with a magnet, and I was first thinking I don't need Wi-Fi, but later I was thinking it's a good option to have, because when the internet is down I can make a hotspot on my phone, connect the motherboard's Wi-Fi to my phone and have internet access. What I like about this motherboard is all the I/O connections here, because we have a lot of high-speed USB, even USB 40 gigabit per second. We have 10 gig Ethernet, we have 2.5 gig Ethernet. We have a BIOS flashback, we have a display port in and an HDMI out, and there's also a video chip on the CPU, so we can use this board without a video card for troubleshooting. We have a nice sound card on this motherboard. The I/O shield is already built in. The motherboard has an AM5 socket, 4 DDR5 memory banks, but I think it's wise to only use 2 sticks. We have 2 PCIe 5.0 16 times slots, and here we have a PCIe 5.0 slot, but only connected on 2X, so good for network cards, stuff like that. The power requirements of this board is a little bit crazy. We have here a 24 pin, an extra 6 pin, and here 2 8 pins. So yeah, I gonna connect them all, and I was thinking, oh, I don't have SATA and cables like that, so I probably have less cables in this system. We have 4 M.2 slots under here, and a very nice layout with all the connectors here on the side, and here's some connectors and here's some connectors, so no cables over the motherboard. And we have really good cooling and really good styling, because the Pro Art is just subtle, no RGB in this system, just the black and cold, and yeah, I love it. I unpacked all the parts, and in this box I put all the parts that I probably need for the build, and all the things that I don't need I put away. The first thing that we're gonna do is just take the parts and check what kind of connections do we have and what do we need to build. So for example, here we have an USB 3.0 header that is here on the motherboard. I think this header is for the USB-C that goes here, and here's an audio header. So I just gonna scout around and see what's need to be connected where, so when I'm building I can do it in the right order. Here on top you find a thumb screw to remove this panel. The first step now is to test fit the motherboard and see if all the motherboard standoffs are in the right place, and then test fit the video card to see how the depth is, and if I know that information I can just prepare the case and then prepare the motherboard, test it, and then build it together. The motherboard has 9 holes. There's also 9 standoffs installed. They're all in the right spot, so let's test fit it. And this motherboard is really heavy, so let's be careful not to drop it in. And the middle motherboard standoff has a little extra pin on top to guide the motherboard in place. Also the I/O shield lines up correctly. All the screw holes line up nicely. This already looks amazing, and this video card fits nicely. I saw some issues in reviews and build videos with longer video cards and water cooling in this case. But this 480 has enough room left here for water cooling. So you can install like a 5 centimeter radiator thickness without a problem. So if you put the fans on the outside it fits. But if you have like a slim radiator of 25 millimeters thickness with 25 millimeter fans, you could install it on the inside. Let's test fit the power supply. And I'm gonna mount the fan up, and if you think that is wrong, here the logo is also like this, so the fan up is perfectly fine, and also the fan doesn't spin only when this uses a lot of power. So then it also provides extra cooling, but in normal operation the fans are not spinning. The power supply fits, but I had to remove at least one hard drive rack. But I prefer to remove them if you don't use them, so they can't go rattling and make noise. After test fitting, the second step is to prepare the computer case. So first I'm gonna swap out the fans for the Noctua. Noctua is a premium expensive brand, but it gives all the accessories you need. So splitters, extension cables, and they also have this rubber grommets or rubber mounting systems for the fans. I'm gonna try if this works. They also include screws, but if this thingy works, then the fans have extra dampening, and you can simply pull the short side like in the case rail, and then the long side goes in the fan. So let's try to install a fan. Okay, it works. You can slide around the fans. So I first need to fill up the whole stack, otherwise they slide down like this. I think it's easier to first install the rubber thingies on the fans and then in the case. It's now time to work on the motherboard, and I put it on some foam from the video card so it's protected and you can slide it around, and never put it on an anti-static bag and turn it on. What I like about AM5 that they remove the pins from the processor and put them in the socket, just like what Intel already does for like 20 years, because it's easier to drop the CPU than drop something into the socket. To install the CPU, open the lid, And then there's an arrow here on the CPU and an arrow here on the socket. Carefully drop it in. Always wiggle it a bit around so you know that it is on the right spot. Close the lid and then push down the handle. And then the protection cover flies away. Always keep these, so if you store the motherboard without the CPU you can protect the socket. And what I really like about Asus, that they give a complete user guide on paper, not on like a DVD or a PDF that you need to download. So you have all the information while building on paper. That's amazing. That's why this board is 430 euros. Okay, let's see, DIMM slots. We have DIMM A1, A2, B1 and B2. Two modules. I should use A2 and B2. I really love how the Corsair Function modules look. They really stepped up their design. So open the clips here on the side and then see where the nuts needs to go and then line it up. And then push it in till you hear click, and never push too hard when getting the modules in if it doesn't fit. The Western Digital SSDs are Gen 4 and we have 2 Gen 4 slots here on the motherboard and 2 Gen 5 slots on the motherboard. But the Gen 5 slots are like higher priority to the CPU, so I'm gonna install them in the Gen 5 slots, and in the future I can always swap them around. And in reviews they say, oh, it's amazing that the SSDs are held with this clip so you don't have to screw it in. But then you need to put a heatsink over it and still use 4 screws. So yeah, I don't think that is a big advantage. It's easy, but it is not a huge advantage. I'm really curious what people think. There are heatsinks and heat pads, and there's a big sticker here on the SSD. Should I just remove it and install it so I have better cooling and longer life, instead of... Is that voiding my warranty? I think I just will go for better cooling. And you can easily remove them. Just stick them in the packaging. And all the chips on the SSD are branded SanDisk. To install the SSD, just push it in and then here push it down, and then you can use the clip to hold it in. And then we take the heat sinks, and that's really nice about this motherboard. It has the built-in heat sinks, so you don't have to get aftermarket heat sinks of SSDs with heat sinks, and screw it down. And don't forget to remove the protective foil of the heat sinks. It's now time to install the CPU cooler. The nice thing about this heatsink is that the cooling pipes are offset. So if you install it like this, you have more cooling block on this side and more clearance on this side. And the S version has here more room for clearance around the memory slots and the VRMs. With CPU cooler installation, read the manual. It's so important to get the details right so you don't break things on your motherboard. The installation is really simple. We just need to remove these 2 clips, and there's already a backplane installed under the motherboard that's still used by the Noctua mounting hardware. Let's do a test fit without thermal paste. And don't over tight the screws, and always put like a few turns on one side and a few turns on the other side, and make sure you evenly screw it together. Perfect. And there are also extra clips included if you still want to mount a second big fan, but that blocks also the memory. And I think with all my airflow in my case, that one fan is enough. The best thing to do is first test your motherboard outside of your case and see if everything works. But then I need to install and reinstall the cooler, and I don't want to do that, so I will directly place the motherboard into the case and just test it from there. But I don't gonna build the whole system, I'm just gonna build it till it can boot up and then test it out. Let's install some cables. Let's first do the two 8-pin CPU cables that goes here on the top. There's only one hole here in the top, and that perfectly aligns the two 8-pin CPU cables. So push the cable through the rubber grommet and then see what kind of bend you can make so it fits nicely. And the 6-pin CPU cable is only to provide extra power to the PCI slots, but with only one video card I don't think I need it. So I can always install it later, but I will leave the cable out so I have less cable spaghetti to work with. Let's start with some super basic cable management, just like the first layer. So let's route this cable here under the Velcro. So let's see, the PCIe CPU cables are here, so hidden away down there. This is all SATA PATA, so we don't need that. And here the motherboard connector, and here an extra USB. So yeah, let's see how that will fit. Okay, I'm quite happy with the cable runs like this, because it natural bends the way how I want it, and we only have now 3 cables in the power supply, and only the USB will be the 4th cable, so we don't have a big cable spaghetti in this build. One thing that is never changed in computers is like the jumper style power switch and LED connectors. Time to install the thermal paste, and in the Noctua manual, if you have AM4, go for 1 dot in the middle and 4 dots on the side. And with AM5, just 1 dot in the middle is enough, they say. And it comes with Noctua NT-H1 thermal paste, but I also have like a tube of NT-H2 thermal paste, and this one is fine, but this one is better, so I'm gonna use the better solution. I have this thermal paste tool to spread it around, and I always do that. It's just that I prefer that more. But just do what you think is best. Before installing the CPU cooler, make sure you remove the plastic cover here in the bottom. Just line it up. Slightly wiggle it around. And then screw it down. And if it stops turning, also stop applying pressure. This is very exciting. I'm gonna power up the system just with the onboard video and see what happens. The fans are spinning. It can take a while. I see some LEDs on the motherboard. It was first red, then white, now green, and we have a working system. New CPU installed, blah 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 blah. 96 gigabytes of memory installed. Ryzen 9 17950X16 core CPU. 2 Western Digital blacks detected. Please enter setup to recover BIOS setting, blah 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 blah. I love this screen, so you can directly see everything what's going on, and you still have all the options to go into and change. Right now we have BIOS version 13.03 and the current is 16.02, so I'm gonna update the BIOS before I'm gonna install anything else, because that's really important with this kind of generation of Asus board. Get the latest BIOS, because the earlier BIOSes have some issues. And we have here a USB port that says BIOS, so that's a special port. You plug your USB stick in, and I already saw a little light in the USB stick, and then you have a BIOS flash button here, and you press it and you hold it, and then the light here goes on and also on the USB stick, and now it's updating the BIOS. So just let it go and walk away, drink some beer, and when it's finished the BIOS is updated. So the BIOS update is successful, 1602. It's now time to install the video card, but first we need to remove all the plastic of it. Everything is really protected on this card. I finally figured out how this stand works, and this is to put under your video card to prevent it from sagging down, and it has a magnet here so you can easily install it, and then a screw, and if you loosen it you can take out the centerpiece, and if you move it around like this you have a mini screwdriver, but if you just tighten the screw on the right position, and then you need to adjust it a bit, tighten the screw, push it in place, and now the video card won't sag down anymore. PCBWay has shared open source projects. Go to the tab Shared Projects to see all the user projects that are shared. Select a category and find something you like. For example, check out this project. Film camera remote shutter project with a Raspberry Pi Pico. PCBWay makes the PCB for this project, and you get a component list and a video and a written description. So if you want to make this project, go to the link in the description. It's now time to power the video card, and we need this cable with the new modern 16-pin PCIe plug. Route cable to the Chromat. Let's see how the cable wants to behave. And let's push it in, and make sure you push it in till it clicks. All the problems with this connector are probably because of dirt or like a loose connection. So now I need to connect the cables, test out the video card, and then do the cable management, but gonna do the cable management off camera because I just want to enjoy it, not for the views, just for my self enjoyment of the cable management. So see you later when the cable management is done and everything is probably working. The cable management is done, and without SATA cables and SATA power it is way less complicated. So yeah, this is the minimum amount of cables, but still a lot of cables because of all the power and all the fans and stuff like that, because every fan is on a fan output on the motherboard, so no splitters, no fan controllers, and all the cables are tied down with zip ties. It really became a really clean build, but I found something that I just need to install it. It's a better modification than RGB. It gives you way more performance than RGB. I found a COM port on the motherboard, so should I install this COM bracket? Yes, of course we need to have a COM port if we have a COM port on the motherboard. So yeah, let's install something retro in this machine. An original 9-pin COM port. Because you don't need it, but it looks cool. Ah, perfection. This is just amazing. It's 3 weeks now since I built this beast of a workstation. It's so insanely fast. I'm so happy with this configuration. And I have a 3 monitor setup, and I installed Windows 10. I was thinking about Windows 11, but then I saw some reviews and some mixed opinions, and I was thinking, let's go Windows 10. It will be fine for the next 2 years, and after that I will see what I do. AM5 is a pretty new platform. This is like generation 1 of the platform. So did I encounter any issues? Yeah, I had one evening that I had some issues. So let me first tell you that my previous workstation was real workstation hardware. And the issue that I have with real workstation hardware is that it boots up so slowly. So I was thinking, let's go to the consumer platform, it will be faster. But no, not with 96 GB of memory and memory testing every time. Because when I turned the every time memory testing off, which takes 30 seconds, then I encountered problems and blue screens and Windows that was crashing in an Windows update and all kinds of errors and recovery. So I turned back on the memory testing every time, so that adds 30 seconds boot time and no issues anymore. And for the rest, I didn't have any issue with this system. It just works perfectly fine. It flies in video editing. Like a 20-minute clip, I rendered in 5 minutes. And on my old workstation, a 20-minute video would take 20 to 30 minutes. So this thing really flies. And it looks amazing. The Noctua fans work really well. The machine is very silent. All the fans are on the Asus built-in fan controller. And I made a profile that on certain CPU temperatures the fans ramp up. But even under full rendering load, you hear the fans a little bit, but totally not annoying. So the Noctua cooling and the air cooler works really fine in this system. So let me know, do you want to see a video? The 16-core AMD versus a 10-year-old 10-core Intel, which was a really fast CPU back in the days. So I want to run, like in that video, Cinebench, maybe SSD benchmarks, maybe a gaming benchmark, or just a frame per second to see the video card difference. So let me know in the comments, do you like to see such a video and what kind of benchmarks do you want me to run? So what should I do with my old workstation? I don't really need it as a backup machine because I have a Dell laptop, an XPS 15 from 2018. Maybe I should make some videos with this machine, and should I run Linux on it? That would be probably a nice idea, and just see how Linux performs on this machine, because it's a 10-core Xeon with 64 GB of memory and some SATA SSDs. To connect this machine to the network, I used the simple Cyxel switch which I reviewed a few months back, because it has a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port and an SFP plus port to the rest of my network, and I still need to get a solution to run the 10 gig Ethernet port to that switch and then to the rest of my network. And this whole video is edited on my new workstation. If you like to support me, you can support me monthly on Patreon, get access to my awesome Discord server, or use my Amazon affiliated links with all the links to the parts that I used in this build. And thanks for watching.